Yeah. We really boxing. Who wanted the baddest? Let's see.
Oh, we boxing? Yeah, we boxing. I need that belt like it ain't no other option. So we punching and weaving and blocking. Defeat ain't an option. Let them know. Shoot a video, put it on BVO. Let them know. Every time I punch, it's a heavy blow. BVO, bound to hit like bricks cause it was set in stone. Let them know. I ain't getting body, but I'ma hit this flow. Yeah, way more than a show. This is BVO. This how it's finna go. I'ma throw some jabs. Make them think my punch is weaker than I hook his ass. This the ring, not the kitchen, but I'ma cook his ass. Me and him, that's a pro versus the rookie class. All my life I had to fight, but I still love it. Me and BVO got moves that you can't steal from us. And these haters be throwing shots, but I don't feel nothing. I ain't gonna lie, they alright, but we a little rough. We're stepping for the title and facial rival. This ain't no little tussle. Bet I be no bird, being chicken to get your feathers ruffled. Footwork, I'm dancing around my opponent like the Cupid shuffle. Good work, bodies hit the flow, they can't move a muscle. The upside is we ain't in the streets shooting and shooting up. Catch me in the ring, sticking, moving and suited up. I know everybody can eat, but I ain't full enough. Oh, you said it's smoking some beef? I guess I'm pulling up. Oh, we boxing? Yeah, we boxing. I need that belt like it ain't no other option. So we punching and weaving and blocking. Defeat ain't an option. Let them know. Shoot a video, put it on BVO. Let them know. Every time I punch, it's a heavy blow. BVO, bound to hit like bricks cause it was set in stone. Let them know. I ain't getting body, but I'ma hit this flow. Yeah, way more than a show. This is BVO.
The JBT is back. New raffles, new prizes. This time, we're coming with you with a 10-inch, 10th generation iPad. Comes in multiple colors, amazing technology, and guess what? Everything that you have in the palm of your hands for full-fledged entertainment. Now, how do you win this prize? Again, just $10. $10 will give you a chance to win this great prize. We even got a special for you. We're even offering a special of 3 entries for only $25. All you have to do is send your money to JBT Network 1 via Cash App. With that being said, good luck. Got to be in it to win it.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy BVO Boxing, man. We're in the house. I apologize ahead of time for Freeze attire. He looks crazy. I don't know what he's doing.
Crazy.
I just want to apologize early on and tell you guys, forgive me for what Free is wearing. Forgive me because he looks crazy. But I'll say this. We got a big interview today. I'm waiting on my brother, man, Crown Jewel. He's Puerto Rican. Free knows this. They're always late. So
I don't know nothing about that. I'm always on time.
Yeah, you're a military guy. That's one of the reasons why you're on time. But other than that, we're gonna get started. We're gonna talk about it looked like Virgil Ortiz lost that fight this past weekend. And you know, Virgil Ortiz is one of the best fighters in the world. They got a kid out there named Boots Ennis who's ducking him and scared of him. I think after that performance, I think there's an opportunity for him to get that fight with Boots Ennis because he just looked horrible in my opinion versus that guy. What you guys think about that fight?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How y'all doing? Welcome to BVO Boxing, where tonight's show we would not have no bull crap on tonight's show. We got a special guest coming in, so we're going to try to save the cat for another day. We're going to have to figure out a day of the week where you can freely cap. But right now, since we have a guest coming into the house tonight, I'm asking, you know, the most problem child in the family to be on his best behavior tonight. But, you know, to get along with this show, get it started. Virgil Ortiz and Virgil Ortiz fans. How do y'all feel? You know, I got to pick with y'all. I just let y'all live until it's time for me to wake y'all asses up. Virgil, man. They need to rematch that fight, in my opinion. They need a rematch. I would have called it a draw. Some people thought he lost, and some delusional people gave him the fight. I watched the fight 3 times because I didn't even watch it live. So I caught the last couple rounds when the brothers was cooking on, and after the fight went off, after the live went off, I watched it. Then I waited later in the day, and I watched it again, and I watched it again. Man. Well, I'm going to say this. Not going to say these guys are not who they thought we were. Some of them are. But what's really kicking in is that some of these unknown guys that we don't know about are actually gooder than what they are. You have fighters out there that is A level, B level, even quietly elite level guys, but they just don't get the time. They don't get the shine because everybody can't make it. Everybody ain't gonna be that star, and this is what it is. We have seen it recently. We have seen it again with Bolichuk. We just seen it in the Bud fight. I don't care what you Bud fans feel about it. That dude looked like he belonged in there because he was in there with him. No matter what happened in that fight, get over your feelings, people. So we at this again. It's 2 back-to-back weekends that we have seen this. So it's good that boxing is starting to bring up guys that we don't know about, and these guys can actually fight. We can't say the same thing about Rocky Feldon, though. We can't say the same thing about Rocky Feldon. But I hope to see more of this in the sport of boxing, because we get caught up in the big names and we think they the only tough guys, and we really be thinking that they level above a lot of these other guys, and they really are not. Some of these guys is on the same level as them. I don't care if they're your fan favorite or not. This is just facts. And then if you're a betting man, you better bet right. But there are a lot of fighters in the sport that's just as good as some of our favorite fighters and on the same level. And we've been seeing specs of it. But Virgil, he definitely need to wait another 5 years to get in there with a boot sentence. I'm gonna pass the mic.
Yeah. Let me piggyback on what Crush said. There's a lot of good fighters that doesn't get the notoriety because we so focused on.
I'll say this.
The big name fighters.
It just
we focus on
Free you on mute.
He not on mute.
He not on mute, BVO.
BVO,
okay.
BVO got to get his headset back on. But
go ahead, Free.
I think Virgil, he underestimated his opponent, and Virgil know this opponent. He knows him, but I think Virgil got a little beside himself, and he just thought he was the better fighter because they're sparring partners. They fought before. They worked out with each other, and he knew what Virgil was going to do. He knew what type of fighter Virgil is, and he knew what he was going to do. The piggyback off of what Crush said, Bud didn't look his spectacular self that we used to seeing from Bud. And let's be honest, the best fight would have been Boychuk versus Magnumov. That looked in the best fight.
That's what I said, Free.
And I believe that fight was a draw. I mean, yeah, Virgil hurt him a few times, but he didn't go down. Virgil went down twice in that fight. But I definitely think they should run it back the same way I think that Bud and Magnumov should run it back. I think both of those fights should be ran back because they gave both of those opponents a run for their money. They were the bigger names, and both of these opponents was relatively unknown, and they pushed them to the limit. Bud came out of there with his eyes swollen. Bud looked like he wasn't expecting what he got. And the same thing with Virgil. And that's the thing I was telling you, Prize, when you said, look at Magnumov's face. Well, if you go back and look at Virgil's face was the one that was busted up, but he got the win. So it's not always what the face looked like. I think they gave Virgil the benefit of the doubt because he's the bigger name, and he did hurt him a few times in that fight. So I think they gave him the benefit of the doubt, but in my book, that was a draw at best. That was a draw.
At best. Well, see, here's my thing, Deep Free and Crush and BVO too. My brother CDK, and shout out to CDK, he made a video earlier, and I at the time I only had saw the fight briefly the night that it happened. I watched it one time, and I watched it again. And I told CDK, I commented, I was like, yeah, Virgil ain't win, bro. Not saying that Virgil lost, but I feel like that Virgil did land the hardest shots. He was more like, I mean, he was first of all, that was a fight of the year candidate. So Virgil was in a firefight. That guy came to fight. Virgil Ortiz, I don't think he won. I'm gonna go with a draw myself. Now I done watched it 3 times myself. I think I'm gonna go with a draw. But there were some other brothers making some good points. And then you had some other people just talking nonsense, like Taco Hat, man. I don't know why he said that's the biggest robbery he ever seen or in the history and all that. Like people throw that robbery around loosely. It wasn't a robbery, it was a close fight. If you had what's the boy name? How you say his name, Free?
Boychuk.
Borchat. If you had him winning, I'm all right with that. That's fine. If you had Virgil winning, I'm okay with that. Me personally, I had it a draw. It's kind of hard to come back from them knockdowns. It was 2 knockdowns in the fight. So I heard some other brothers was arguing, saying, "Well, count them knockdown. You telling me Magnum, what's his name? Damn, Burkershaw didn't win at least 2 or 3 rounds or 3 rounds. I couldn't. I mean, it was hard. That fight was hard to score. It depends on what you're looking at. But I mean, it was a good fight. I don't think Virgil. I think like the homie Free said that they gave him the benefit of the doubt because he was the bigger name. But I think that I didn't think Virgil won that fight. Like, because the dude was landing some stuff too, even though Virgil had the harder shots land. But the dude got knockdowns and he pushed and he never quit. So I mean, I'm with y'all. Run it back. The Bud and the Magnum off, whatever. I don't need to see another rematch in that. Bud just had a tougher fight than what we thought, and we don't need to see that again. But that fight there is definitely warranting a rematch for sure. I don't think Virgil won. I think it was a draw, like Free said at best. If anything, the other Burkershaw, whatever his name is, won the fight. But if y'all got it a draw, if y'all got it going either way, I'm not going to argue nobody. If BVO get up here and say Virgil Ortiz won the fight, he did this and did that, I'm not going to argue with him because it was that close.
Yeah, of course, that was another horrible take from my dear brother Prize, but at the end of the day, like I
Tell me
said,
how.
like I said, my man Virgil lost that fight. Salute to Melanin Queen, salute to Tim Layton. Hit that link, Crown,
The
and see if you
like,
come up that way.
and salute to
But
Bruce Gas too. I seen him in
salute to
the
Bruce
chat.
Bruce
Gas.
Gas in the building. What's up?
And Timmy Layton.
I think people got to remember, man, Virgil Ortiz, it was not 2 knockdowns. I didn't realize we would be giving out propaganda. It was a slip and a knockdown. So the first one was a knockdown. The second one was a slip.
They counted them as
So
knockdowns.
it's a slip. They counted it as a slip. But the thing I'll say is this: Virgil Ortiz just showed you he was really rocking Burchek. I think that's how you say his name. And we just know if he get in there with boots tennis, it's over.
No, they counted the first one as a slip, but then when they went back and watched the
They
replay,
changed it, right?
they changed it to a knockdown.
Yo, what's going on? Hold on, 1 second. 1 second.
Who that? The homie Crown?
Crown, what's
What's
going
going
on,
on,
Crown?
my man, brother Bruce.
Yo,
Bruce
what's up?
Gas in the building. What's up?
Hey,
Salute.
hey,
Look
hey,
at brother
hey.
Bruce came hang out with the brothers.
Let me show you something I got today in the mail.
What you got, Bruce Gas? Oh, that's dope.
Oh my god.
Ain't that pretty, huh?
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's not.
Somebody got to
You got all the cool stuff.
The only thing is it's a left glove. Thomas had the right hand.
Nevertheless, though, it's still sweet.
Well, we got our man of the hour in here. Hold on 1 second. What's going on? I think I got a little echo.
Somebody got to mute.
All right. Oh, so what's going on? We got my brother Crown in the house, man. How you feeling, man?
What's good, BVO?
Good, man.
What's good?
Hold on, let me see. We got a little echo. Okay, now we good. We never get to talk like this, man. We never get to talk about your career, man. But we finally got my guy, man, Crown, the young legend, man. How's it going, man?
I don't know about that young legend stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just another guy in a fight game trying to do my part. But everything's well.
So I'm gonna get right into it, man. So what was it like growing up in Atlantic City as a young kid in the 70s and 80s, man? What was that like?
Well, I say I didn't grow up in Atlantic City. I grew up in a neighboring town called Pleasantville, 5 miles from Atlantic City.
Shout out
When I started to
Pleasantville.
box, my mother was born and raised in Atlantic City. My father was from Pleasantville. My connection with Atlantic City is I boxed out of Atlantic City half of the time. I spent 2 days a week in Atlantic City and 3 days in Pleasantville. But what it was like for me growing up, I grew up pretty much like a normal kid from birth to 7. At 7, I started boxing. Boxing pretty much consumed my childhood from then on. It was school, the gym, homework, dinner, shower, bed. That was my routine from the time I was 7 until I was 17.
So, speaking of that, man, you talk a great deal about your father, man. What was it like growing up with your father? And I want to know, like, what was one quality that you always seen in him that you kind of took for yourself?
Well, I'm gonna try not to get emotional on that because my father meant a great deal to me, and he's the person that introduced me to the sport of boxing. So excuse me if my voice may crack a little bit, but I'm gonna try to be a soldier and hold it together. But my father was a boxing coach. My grandfather was a manager. When I was 7, my grandfather was managing a fighter named Kevin Killer Watts who fought Frank Tate and Michael Nunn. He won the USBA and the NABF middleweight titles. So my dad was training some fighters from Canada and Detroit. So the fighters came to live with us while my dad was training them. And one of the ones in Canada went back home for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
When he went back home for the summer, I went with him. Prior to that, my dad would not train me as a fighter. I was a crybaby. My sisters used to kick my ass, so my dad didn't think I was tough enough for boxing. When I got to Canada, a guy named Marty Burton, I still consider him my brother. Yes, I have a white brother. His name is Marty Burton. He's Canadian. When we get to his father's house, we spend 2-3 days with his mom and dad. Then his father drops us off on a farm for the rest of the summer where we did nothing but fish, train, and box. And like I said, I'm 7 years old at this time. There's no running water on the farm. Where we're staying, there's no electricity, no cable. So we chopped wood for fun. We took showers in a natural waterfall, and we boxed and trained every day.
Off
So
the
after
grid.
doing
Let's
that
go.
for a summer, I came back to Pleasantville. And when I came back to Pleasantville, I had gotten boxing gloves, boxing shoes. And I looked at my father in his face, and I told him, I said, I'm a fighter now. So
Mm-hmm.
my dad, you ain't no fighter. You a crybaby. Your sisters beat you up, blah, 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 blah. So the next time he took Marty to the gym, I go with him, and he sees me hitting the bag. He sees me hitting the bag. He doesn't say a word to me the whole time. So I'm wondering, is he impressed? Is he not impressed? Um, he didn't say a word until we in the car going home. And
Mm-hmm.
he ended up telling me, like, I'm amazed at how far you came in a summer. And I just told him, I said, listen, I told you I'm a fighter. From then on, he became more obsessed with me being a fighter than me. He was my trainer from then on out. Um, he was with me in the gym every single day. We went to professional fights together. We traveled the country my whole childhood competing. Like, he was my absolute ace. And one of my biggest regrets um, is by the time I turned pro, he had already passed away. And that kind of took some of the vigor of boxing away from me because I wasn't able to take my dad on the ride he deserved, being as though he had poured so much into me, through boxing.
So that being said, man, and we've I read a lot about how you and your father were, but I always hear, from fighters that work with you, the big thing is that you treat everyone like their family. Is that something that you got from your mother? That big heart that seems to always be in the gym?
Believe it or not, my mother was the mean one.
Oh.
My father was more. My mother, believe it or not, I love my mother to death. She's still here, thank God. But my mother told me after I got grown, she was always hard on me because she didn't want me to be a punk. So my mom was tough love. My dad was more the nurturer. But my dad told me when I was young, we was in a eatery here called Wash's, and it stuck with me. A young kid I know, I won't mention his name because he may not want his business out there, but we were both kids at the time, came in to try to buy some chicken, and he had $1. And he asked the cashier how many chickens he could get with $1. And of course, I think a wing was like 69 cents. Then she told him he could get one wing. He got his one wing and he left. And when he walked out, my dad looked at me and said, that's why you're going to make it in life, to help little guys like that. So, he kind of placed a mission in my lap that, I was going to help underprivileged kids. And so, as a homage to him, because of the father he was to me, I try to look out for those, underneath me. And I try to treat everyone that I come in contact with through boxing the way he treated me.
So when you talk about, like you said, unfortunately your father passed, what made you keep going? Because like at 7 years old, how did you say at 7 years old, hey, this is what I want to do? Like you said, that's a big statement at 7 to say, I want to be a fighter. So like how in usually what that's about second grade or third grade, how
Yeah,
at that young did you know?
I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
The reality was in the beginning, we watched Tommy Hearns Marvin Hagler fight together,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a huge Hagler fan. I was hooked. And then there was two motivating factors.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it was proving my father wrong in that I was tough enough to be a fighter. And secondly, was making my father proud. So 90% of what I did through boxing had nothing at all to do with my personal wants. It was all about getting that stamp of approval from my father, and for him, to verbalize to me that I actually was a fighter, and not just a fighter, but a good one. So that was my motivation.
So when you talk about Atlantic City, Pleasantville. So were you did you grow up in Pleasantville more, or did you grow up in Atlantic City more?
I grew
Because you
up in
always seem
Pleasantville
synonymous
more.
with both. Go ahead.
Yeah, I grew up in Pleasantville. You got to understand, they're 6 miles apart. So
Oh,
you can
okay.
take Pleasantville
So
and
yeah,
Atlantic City, combine them, and put them in Philly 10 times. So the
yeah.
boxing community is very small. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have really like a boxing community in Pleasantville besides one gym in Pleasantville, one in Atlantic City. So
Mm-hmm.
really, we're one with Philadelphia because our amateurs go through Philadelphia. So we have to go to Philly to fight. But because I'll say this as humbly as I can, because as a little guy, I was probably the best in the area. I traveled on both Pleasantville's team and Atlantic City's team.
Okay.
So that's where it was both. You know what I mean? Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I was in Pleasantville with my father and a Hall of Fame trainer by the name of Mike Hall. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I was in Atlantic City with a trainer by the name of Bill Johnson, whose son Levander was IBF lightweight champion of the world, but he ended up losing his life defending his title. So that's where Pleasantville and Atlantic City came in, that I physically trained 3 days a week in Pleasantville, 2 in Atlantic City. So I became like pretty much synonymous with both.
So when you graduated high school, is that when you went pro, or when did you go pro? When did you decide to go pro?
Nah, unfortunately, when I graduated high school, I was sick of boxing. I had got burned out because, again, I wasn't doing it because I loved it. I was doing it, for the admiration of my father.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, my father had got a second job. He wasn't in the gym as much with me. And the second thing was all the fighters, because I started so young, that I had traveled with from 7 until 16 had all turned pro and left me behind in the amateurs. So
Mm-hmm.
at that point, it really wasn't fun for me anymore. It was just like my dad's at work. He's not at the gym with me. I'm basically training myself, and all my teammates are now professional, and I'm still fighting amateur. Combined with the fact that I'm in high school, all my friends have girlfriends. You know what I mean? They're working jobs. They're living a teenage life, and I'm not experiencing any of that. So at
Mm-hmm.
that point, I decided to enlist in the Army.
Got you.
Um, and I couldn't get away from it, though, because when I got in the Army, they were trying to force me to box. So, you know what I mean? I kind of went in the Army to escape boxing. I didn't box in the Army, but I helped train fighters in the Army. Also, this is something I've never said publicly. You about to get an exclusive. Some of the closest people to me don't know this. Um, Another reason why I walked away from boxing. My son's in the car with me. He don't even know this. Young, my vision had gotten really bad to
Mm-hmm.
the point where I really couldn't see in the boxing ring. I was basically fighting off an instinct. So that was another reason why, like, I I I never told my dad because I didn't want to crush him and let him know that I can't see, Dad, so I can't box. So, I kind of stopped boxing. I can show you my military pictures. I had the birth control glasses on like I was blind as a bat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the good thing is during that time, LASIK surgery became prevalent. And 5 or 6 months after I got out the Army, I got LASIK surgery, got 20/20 vision, and got back into sport. But by that time, my father had passed away.
So let me ask you this: being in New Jersey of all places in the '90s, man, was it kind of tough, or even though you were even though you went to the army, was it kind of tough going back to that same neighborhood, or what was it like?
When I left, it was tough. When I went in the army, um, I have a bunch of first cousins, an older brother, all got locked up right before I went in the army. So I was leaving the same inner city trials that everybody deals with. Yeah. So, but I will say, I've never been a street dude. And because I box and I'm pretty well known in my area, most of the street dudes looked out for me and kind of shielded me from that. If my brother had found out I was into some of the things he was into, I mean, me and him would have to fight because my older cousins, my older brother, they didn't want me nowhere near none of that stuff. And they had my family had a pretty big name, so I was able to move around where I didn't have no issues.
And speaking of this, I forgot to ask you this: being young and knowing how to fight, did you ever find yourself trying to show off stuff you were using in the gym, or you never did?
Ironically, I didn't. Ironically, it was the opposite. Before I started boxing as a very young kid, I fought in school almost every day. I had to see a behavioral specialist. I mean, it was to the point where my mother wouldn't even come to the school and get me when I got suspended. She would send my grandfather because she was embarrassed. Um, Once I started boxing, I never had another school fight. I eventually stopped having to see the behavioral specialist. I wasn't gifted and talented the whole time, so I wasn't no dummy. But boxing actually helped me control the aggression and my bad behavior. So it was the opposite. I never really fought outside of boxing once I started boxing.
And it's because you would think, maybe just me and me. I naturally was a big guy, so I was always on the bully stuff. So it's kind of funny to hear, you never hear about boxers just slapping people in the mouth, punching on. None of that.
That, in my opinion, I can't speak for all fighters, right? Because I do know
Yeah.
some fighters that beat people up outside the gym coming up. But
Mhm.
to me, I spent so much time boxing, competing, and fighting. That would be like a painter deciding to paint houses on his day off. I wasn't interested. You know what I mean? Boxing was like a job for me when I was young. I did it so often. So nah, I wasn't interested in fighting anybody outside of boxing.
I know my brother Crush and D Free got a couple points. Go ahead, Crush and D Free.
All right, Free, you good?
What's good? How you doing?
Hold on one second. I don't know. Can y'all hear it?
I
Yeah, I
hear
can
you.
hear the homie Crown just fine.
Go go
Yeah.
go go ahead. Go ahead, Free. Or
Don't matter. Go
Prime.
ahead,
Go ahead.
free.
Nah, I was gonna ask, what are some of the fighters that you spar with that some of the people don't know that you actually got in the ring with?
Evander Johnson, Virgil Hill, Shimon Alvarez, not a lot of big John Brown, a lot of older regional level fighters, world title challenge. A guy named Benny Ampero, he fought Tom Boom Boom Brown for the IBF featherweight title. When I was 16, I was his chief sparring partner for that camp. I sparred, quite a few guys. I didn't fight, but I crossed paths with Floyd Mayweather in the amateurs. I think it was 92 or 3. National Power Tournament in Marquette, Cut, Michigan. We actually took pictures together. I can brag on this one, even though it wasn't right. I won gold at the National Power that year. Floyd got silver, but he got robbed. I will say that he got robbed. But I
My
came
bad.
up with, Terrence Cofton, Olympics bronze medalist, David Reed. Like I've been
Hey, Crown,
with
you ever spar that kid from Philly, Jamel Black Gold Wilson? Remember him?
I did not spar Jamil, but we shared a dressing room. My second pro fight, we fought on the same card. And that's ironic because a couple years ago, I found him on Facebook and ended up sending him like 40 pictures that a photographer that was helping me out took of his fight, took pictures of the whole card and gave them to me. So I had sent him some pictures of a fight we had together years ago. So now we never sparred, but we fought together on the same card. He was a lot bigger than me. I was
Yeah.
a welterweight. He was a 154 pounder, I think, before I turned pro. But once I turned pro, he was up at like 160, 168.
Well, when I was young, for people who might not know, Jamel Black Gold Wilson was a Philadelphia fighter who I got to enjoy to watch. I don't know how many times at the historical Blue Horizon.
Blue Horizon. I fought at the Blue Horizon.
Okay,
Amateur,
so
yeah.
I definitely probably, like I said, I used to be in there all the time.
His record didn't indicate it.
I was just about to say, thank you. Go ahead. Cook on that, please. Like his record, it wasn't what it wasn't what it really was. If you know, you know.
Look at his record and think you was, and I'll say this even personally, right? There was a guy in my gym with a very good record named Patrick Perez. He fought Jamil, and if you looked at their record, Patrick was supposed to run through Jamil. Patrick dominated probably the first 4 rounds, ran out of gas, and Jalil stopped him in the 6th. Like, he was a dude that was just tough as nails. It was kind of like you was going to get him or he was going to get you. And he always came to fight. That's what a lot of people maybe outside of boxing won't understand. Even the guys whose records don't look that great, they're still professional fighters.
So let me ask you this, man.
Yeah,
when you talk
Shout
about
out
being
Black Gold.
Shout out Black Gold. And his cousin Marty Schuler, good friend of mine.
Yeah, shout out Marty.
When you talk about South Jersey and you talk about Philadelphia, I will ask you this, man. Who was the fighter or the fighters that you looked up to that said, you know what, I want to pattern my game after them?
Of course, Levander. Kevin Watts when I was really young. Verge, I never wanted to be like Verge, but I took something. My dad used to tell me, if you respect a fighter, figure out what you like about him, take that and incorporate it in your game. So I stole from a lot of people. You know what I mean? But Levander will be one. Virgil Hill will be. A lot of people don't know Virgil Hill's from North Dakota, but probably about 7 years while he was world champ, he trained in Pleasantville here with us. So Virgil, Kevin Watts, Carter Truth Williams was a stablemate of mine when I was very young. I basically, I loved Marvin Hamill. We fought like, but a lot of people may have looked up to the guys on TV, but I felt like I had great fighters right around me. So, those were the guys I looked up to. Bernard was around when I was young. He used to come to our amateur fights at that time, really down-to-earth guy, like shared his jewels on the game, with us. So, it was a lot, I'm saying, a lot of guys.
Yeah,
and rest in peace, another child fighter, Mike Brittingham. He was only a few years older than me. I think when I was like 8, he was like 13 or 14. But he was very good amateur. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But that was another guy I looked up to, him and Terrence E. Carlton. And Terrence went on to become an Olympic bronze medalist.
So let me ask you this. That being said, and you being around so many Olympians, did you ever feel like you kind of were cheated by not being able to, try for the Olympics?
No, because I hated boxing at that point. So I kind of took it away from myself. And I have to go back. I miss my guy, who I'm actually really tight with until this day, Ivan Robinson. I spent a lot of, I call him my big bro. He calls me his little bro.
Shout out Mighty Ivan Robinson.
Shout out Mighty. Probably the best 125-pounder the city of Philly ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
Mighty Ivan Robinson was such a cool brother. When we used to be at the Blue Horizon, he would come and mingle with the crowd. He'd just be in the crowd, even in the South Philly gym where they hold the other fights, the Armory, wherever the fights was in the city. Mighty Ivan Robinson would come there and he would take pictures. He would talk boxing with you. He's just one of them dudes, bro. Shout out.
He wrote down the Earth brother.
Too.
Yeah,
that was one of my favorite Philly cats too.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of them. We can just run down a list of Philly cats, and I can just go on and on and on. Because I watch these guys at the Blue Horizon, and Black Gold actually made it all the way to ESPN at one point. He was on ESPN. I don't think he won, but he got there. He got there.
Yeah, Ivan real cool. I speak from him. I speak with him from time to time on a live stream. He pops up every once in a while and join the live with us. He's
one of those guys that I can expect at least once a month unsolicited. He just gonna call me out the blue and see how I'm doing, and we'll talk boxing. He'll ask me what's going on in my gym. I ask him what's going on in his gym. We're actually planning to do an amateur show together pretty soon. So yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah. A
Yeah,
matter of fact,
mighty Ivan Robinson. That'd be
I
dope if he come. Bring him on here one day, Crown. That's my dude. I mean, I'm pretty sure he don't know who. I'm pretty sure he doesn't know who I am, but I know who he is, and I watched him fight a couple of times live, and I got a chance to mingle with him in the crowd before. You know, he mingled with a million people, so he ain't gonna remember me, but that's a fact. But yeah,
I had
bring
him
the
on my
brother. I
channel
rock with
once.
him heavy.
I had him on my channel once. I had to erase it because we did it in a restaurant and they started playing music in the
Music and stuff. I
background. And
hate that.
yeah, but yeah, we did a tribute to Levander Johnson, who he knew very closely too, and we had to sit down. One of my former trainers, Arnold Robbins, one of my sparring partners, and also Levander's sparring partner, and Lorenzo Bethea, and then Mighty. We all sat down and kind of talked about coming up with Levander. So that was a dope one. But like I said, unfortunately, the establishment started playing music, so I had to discard the video.
Matter of fact, I'm supposed to be meeting up with Ivan this weekend. I'm a holler at him and see if we can get him on the channel, do an interview with him. I'm supposed to be meeting up with him this
He
weekend.
definitely will. We've been
Yeah,
pump
he
faking
probably
about
he
doing an
like
interview
that.
together for a year. For a year, I say every time he calls me, one of the first things he says is, "All right, little bro, I'm coming on your channel." But we never kind of, because he's at his gym, I'm at my gym, and we never just set a concrete date, for either me to go up there or him to come down to me.
So speaking about your career, I want it's something that I didn't know, but so how did you go from boxing to becoming a firefighter? How did that happen?
That's another involving my dad. So when I came home from the Army, my father was dying of cancer. So I came home August 25th, maybe. And he passed away October 26th.
Oh
So
wow.
he was adamant about flying to Augusta, Georgia, which was my last duty station, and riding with me home because he didn't want me to ride by myself. So I told him, I said, Dad, I've been in Augusta for 18 months. I've driven back to Jersey by myself 10, 15 times. Like, it's okay. You don't have to do it. So he said, what I say, just pick me up at the Atlanta airport, on Friday, and we're driving back Saturday. So I did. If you know my father, he's the type, never allow anybody else to drive when he's in the van. When we went to amateur tournaments and stuff, I don't care who we were with, he's driving. So we load up the U-Haul. He helps me load up the U-Haul. I got my car on the winch being towed by the U-Haul. And once we finish, I go to hand my dad the keys. He hands them back to me. Red flag. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I get in the truck. He gets in the passenger seat. 2 minutes into the drive, he lays his head in my lap like a baby. I'm scared to death now. He sleeps most of the ride. When we get home, my sister tells me, Dad signed himself out the hospital to come make that drive with you. So we get home on Saturday night. I tell him, look, we can chill for the weekend, but on Monday, you're going back in the hospital. He went back in the hospital Monday. He didn't come home till almost 2 months later on hospice care. So it's the day he decided he was no longer going to do chemotherapy, which we knew that was a death sentence after that.
Right.
He's reading the paper. I'm laying next to him in his bed. He had a king size bed. I get on the opposite side. I'm laying on my back talking to him, and he says, Jewel, I just want you to get a job so I know you're okay before I leave here. So he worked on the state road, so he was around state troopers all the time. So he said, look, man, why don't you become a state trooper? That's a great career. Growing up how most of us grew up, I say, Dad, I can't be no cop. But he's like, nah, man, I got friends who are state troopers. They wear plain clothes. They in the casino. You wouldn't even know they're a cop. Like, I can't be a cop. So while we're talking about that, I happen to see in the paper that Pleasantville is accepting applications for firefighters. Even though my grandfather was a retired firefighter, never did it enter my mind that I would be a firefighter. I merely told my dad, look, here it is. I'll fill out the application to take the fireman's test. That was just to satisfy my dad on his deathbed. So I filled out the exam. My dad passes away maybe 2 days later. And, a couple months go by, the test comes up. I go take the test. Still not thinking about it. Just telling myself I'm honoring my word to my dad. Not thinking I'm going to actually take the job. I come in number 1 in the test.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fresh out the Army in great shape. So I come in number 1. And my grandfather was like, look, you don't have to stay in this field, but just take the job, see if you like it. If you don't, I was working on a state road at that time too. You can go back to the expressway. So I'm due to be sworn in on, I think it was June 17th.
Mm-hmm.
The city of Pleasantville contacts me and says, the swearing in for tonight is postponed. A couple of the guys' psychological evaluations had problems. The mayor called me himself. A couple of the guys' psychological reports came back sketchy. So we're just going to put off, the hiring. So I'm like, hold on. We done rented a hall. I got cake, food. We having an after party. Like, what the hell you mean? We postponed it. So he tells me, like, look, that's all I can tell you. So I'm like, look, I don't want to hear about nobody else's psychological evaluations. I want to hear about mine. What's wrong with mine? Oh, nothing's wrong with yours. It's just the other guy. So we kind of got into it. It didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
By the following Monday, I was included in the group with the guys who didn't pass the test, probably because of our exchange on the phone. So if you know me, I'm a fighter in every sense of the word. I didn't really want the job until he told me I couldn't have it. So that started a 3-year court battle in which I ended up finding out I was number 1 on the list. I did not fail my psychological evaluation. And now I really wanted the job just to rub it in their face like I'm forcing you to hire me after you deprive me of something. So I got back pay, I got the job, and 20 years later I'm a retired firefighter.
And when you think about that, I'll say this. So once that happened for you, were you like, you know what, man, whatever happens in boxing is fine. Did you have that kind of attitude towards it?
It killed my boxing career, to be honest. And a guy,
Yeah.
but retired battalion chief Neil Locke, I give him, he was right. I got to tell him he was right. The day I got hired and I started work, he told me, he said, the Pleasantville Fire Department is the worst thing that could have happened to your boxing career. And I said, huh? He said, yeah, everybody comes here, takes this job, they make good money, they realize how easy it is. It kind of kills your dreams. You just stay stuck here. And he was right. I was 2-0 when I got hired in the fire department. My plan was to go to the fire, take off from boxing to complete the fire academy, and then go back to boxing. By the end of the fire academy, I had my second child on the way. I learned the importance of a pension and benefits for my children, and the fire department kind of became my priority. Coupled with that, a little more than a year after I became a fireman, I'm back in the gym, and when my dad died, Lavander's dad, Bill Johnson, became my head boxing trainer. A year into my fire career, Lavander dies defending his IBF title.
Oh, wow.
So naturally, that was really tough for me. I'm already like, I don't know if I can pour everything I got into boxing because I had this fire department career now. And then my ace, Boone Coon, who I'm sparring 3 days a week, dies defending his title. So that kind of shook me. I didn't go to the gym for 6-8 months after that. So I get back in the gym eventually, and start working again. I'm sparring Shimon Alvarez, hit him with a right hand, destroy my right wrist, have to get wrist surgery. After I get wrist surgery, I'm off like 7 months, 8 months. Try to go back again, tear my shoulder up, have rotator cuff surgery. When I have rotator cuff surgery, I can't go to work at the fire department for 5 months. At that moment, I said, boxing got to take a back seat. I can't miss 5 months from what's paying my bills because I'm getting injured boxing. And, I kind of was done with boxing at that point. I'm sure you looked up and seen I came back and had 2 more fights in 2009. I won one, lost one. I was a welterweight fighting at light heavyweight because Virgil Hill convinced me to make a comeback because I was undefeated. And so he was like, you know, you don't want to wonder what if. And he kind of took all my excuses away from me. Like, as a firefighter, I was working 2 10-hour days, 2 14-hour nights. So when I worked my nights, I couldn't go to the gym at the time my trainer was in the gym. That was another reason that kind of fell back. Like, I got to go into work at 5:30. They're just starting to train at 5 o'clock. So it came to 2 days a week. I'm training at 12 o'clock in the afternoon by myself. So everything kind of aligned that it was a perfect storm that like boxing just wasn't fit into my life. Now, when Virgil convinced me to come back, you know, again, he was like, listen, I own the gym. Here's your keys to the gym. If you want to train at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can train at 3 o'clock in the morning. If you don't have a babysitter for your kids, bring your kids with you to the gym. So he took all my excuses away, convinced me to, you know, come back. I go to, at this time, I'm like 220 pounds, and I'm again, former welterweight. So I lose like 50 pounds, get down to light heavyweight. So I'm like, Virgil, I'm too small to fight at light heavyweight. No, you're not, man. You're just as tall as me, but I'm slender, right? So he gets me a fight in North Dakota, which Virgil Hill's God in North Dakota.
For sure.
So we get to North Dakota. I'm thinking, I'm with Virgil. I'm the A side. No, I'm fighting a Native American on a Native American reservation. And the matchmaker tells me to my face, you're a blown up welterweight. I brought you here for my guy to beat you. I didn't get the memo. I put him out in the first round, right?
Right.
But it was fool's gold. Because then I just knocked this light heavyweight out in the first round. And now in my mind, I'm big enough to fight these guys. The next fight against a 6'2" southpaw, he stopped me in the first round. Right. Although I got stopped on my feet. I ain't get knocked out like the guy I did. But and
I like how you did. I like how you did that. Hey, you how you did that, Bruce.
Worst luck in the world in that fight, I tore my other rotator cuff and had shoulder surgery. And at that point, it was like, I knew I wasn't going to be no world champion at that point. Boxing is too dangerous to do it. Do I think I could have had a decent level headlining club shows in Atlantic City and making tens of thousands of dollars? Yes, but that was never my aim. So when I realized I couldn't be a world-class fighter, and I had the fire department, you know, in tuck to take care of me and my family, I kind of, you know, bowed out gracefully and just stepped away from the sport.
Yeah, because one thing I will say, that I've read, you know, and it's kind of funny because, you know, you my guy. A lot of people say you that what if story, what could have been, what possibly could have happened.
I'm the ultimate
underachiever. The thing I didn't realize this, but apparently you had the same IQ you have now when you were fighting. So it's just like, wow.
Some people say that.
Yeah.
And one of the old heads in the gym, Mike Hall, used to call me the boxing encyclopedia. Yeah. When they got calls before BoxRec, when they got calls and they had a fighter's name, he would come to me and say, Jewel, they want Kev to fight James Pritchard. Who's James Pritchard? Who did he fight? Did he beat it? And I would always have the answers because I was just a boxing geek. So yeah, I always, you know, loved boxing.
That's before phones. People don't realize this, but you old. This is before phones.
This before internet. There was no internet. Yeah. When you wanted a fighter's record at that time, there was something called Fight Facts. You would have to send a letter to Ralph Citro, who was a cut man too, who owned Fight Facts, and he would send you a printout of the guy's record. It took you 2 weeks to get a guy's record back then. It wasn't instantaneous like now. So that's why, you know, I was an asset in the gym. They call me the boxing encyclopedia because I can give you every fighter stats pretty much that was at least on a B level on up. So yeah.
So from you seeing fighting like you have, now you seen, you know, Pernell Whitaker, Floyd Mayweather. What do you think about this young kid they got, man, from, they say Florida by way of Flatbush, Brooklyn?
Hold on, real quick, before you go that far, I have a boxer's memory. I just remember someone. You asked me about, when I was asked about who I sparred. Believe it or not, I sparred with Fredo Gomez, probably the biggest name fighter I sparred as a teenager. He was making a comeback. He had come to Atlantic City to make a comeback. I was probably like 15 years old. And I will say, you talk about Pernell Whitaker. I had Wilfredo Gomez in the corner and couldn't hit him with a handful of rice. Like this dude, Purnell would slip all the way down to the floor. Gomez was doing that to me in the ring. Dude was
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason I brought this up, and I'm sure we got my man, the boxing historian for real, Bruce Gas, on here, man. You got anything for Crown, Bruce?
I'm gonna listen to that story, Crown. Very, very inspiring, bro. Very touching. Man, I noticed you mentioned you had LASIK surgery, and you came back with 2020. Well, when you got that, were you apprehensive? Did you think you might not come back? Was it kind of like new? Because I've been through that too, man. And it's so smooth today.
ironically back then, like you said, it wasn't quite as smooth as it is now. Ironically, I got it specifically to come back to boxing. So I was
Oh
kind of
wow.
okay with the consequences because the only reason why I got laser surgery, if not, I'd have been cool wearing contacts. But when I was sparring, my contact would get knocked out. So I literally got it to spar. I mean, to fight. Um, the only drawback is I didn't say that was another layoff. When I got LASIK surgery, after getting it back then, you couldn't get punched in the eye for a year. So I had to take a year
Wow.
off after I got LASIK.
Uh,
My
uh,
job, I mean, my career is a series of, what ifs, could have beens. But I will say, with the love I got, in my area and the buzz that was around me, early in my pro career, I'll be the first to tell you I underachieved. But it doesn't bother me because I did go back and see if I still had anything left in the tank at 30. And unfortunately, I look at some of my peers that gave everything to boxing, and some of them, and no disrespect to them, but some of them are working menial jobs, barely making ends meet right now. And I retired at 43 with a full state pension. So, what I mean, what was meant for me to happen, in my opinion, happened. If I'd have gave 110% to boxing, would my life have gone different? Who knows? You know what I mean? It could have went a lot better and I made a lot of money, or it could have went the complete opposite way and I could be walking around on my heels and not being able to complete a sentence. So, I kind of passed the point of the what if, but I do accept that I'm an underachiever.
Yeah.
hmm.
I'll just say this, man. Speaking about fighters now, like I said, you got Pernell and Floyd, but they got this kid out there now, man. A lot of people say BVO's a fan of him, but it's not true because my favorite fighter is Jamal Charlo. But what do you think about this whirlwind Teofimo Lopez, man? This guy that's just beating all the top guys, man.
You know what's real funny? A guy named Lee Gladden that I had
Hmm.
my first amateur fight. We had our first amateur fights together in separate fights. He was the next youngest guy in the gym to me. He worked
Yeah.
with Tio early in his pro career.
Hmm.
So I like Tio. Um, I think Tio's a little bit of a head case though. And I think his talent, he's a very talented fighter. There's no doubt about it.
Hmm.
But the problem is which Tio is going to show up. And I think part of that is a mental fragility. I mean, it was evidence the fight where he asked his dad, "Do I still got it?" I mean, just some of the moves he make. I think fighters
That's
that
not
he's more
normal.
athletic than, no, especially
Okay.
not in front of everybody in a ring like that. Those type of conversations might happen between fighter and trainer, where it's just you're not even gonna say that in front of the other fighters in the gym. Like those are those deep, intimate conversations you might have had with your dad, duffed off in a cut where it's just you and him. For that to come out at that moment like that, like he's just shown, a few instances, and it's not just him, and it's not just fighters. I think today's human now is just a little more mentally weak
Yeah.
than we were, you know, and part of it is our fault as parents. Like even my kids, we all want to make things easier for our kids. We all want to make them have a better life than we had. We all want life, period, to be easier for them than it was for us. And I think what we do is we weaken them in that, because when the struggle is what makes you, and
Yeah.
half of these people don't get to see any real struggle. People like him to have a dad as a trainer, a lot of times they're treated like a professional long before they're a professional. So it kind of, I think, handicaps them. And I think that's what you see with him, like just a little mental toughness that I think is what made Floyd so great. I think Zab Judah was every bit of physically as talented, if not more, than Floyd Mayweather. But Floyd had that mental toughness, and I think that's where T.O.'s lacking.
And when you speak about that, I know we just had a big fight. I don't know if you've seen. I felt like Virgil Ortiz lost that fight,
I
and
agree with you.
we know that for a long time. Jerron Ennis has been scared to even mention Virgil Ortiz's name. But how would
You're
you see a
out of
fight
your
like that playing?
mind.
Go ahead.
You're out of your mind.
What are you talking about? I'm asking you a question. I'm not.
I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. And I've been on other platforms where they tell me I'm lying, but I'm telling you the guy's honest truth.
Yeah.
I've been up to Bosey's dungeon to take fighters to spar. If you ever get to be around Bosey Ennis, talk to him for a little while. He's probably gonna go into his phone. And when he goes into his phone, he'll show you pictures, videos of him sparring young fighters with no headgear on. He eventually is going to go to. I had a heavyweight at the time by the name of Rodney Brooks. I took him, and the name of the fighters escapes me now, but Bosey had 2 heavyweights that were sent to him that were like Asian Russian type. One of them was almost 7 feet tall, and my heavyweight sparred both of them, right? Then after we got out, one was 7 feet tall, the other one was like 6'4". Bosey said, "Now those guys, your guys just worked with." Your guy just worked with? I said, yeah. He said, I can show you video of Boots sparring both of them. So he pulls his phone out. And, the smaller one, Boots just danced around him and boxed his ears off. Then he shows me the video of the big one. This is, like I said, a 7-foot, probably 270-pound heavyweight. That could fight. Big amateur background. I'm mad that I can't remember the kid's name. Boots is standing in the pocket beating the shit out of this heavyweight. And I'm like, this dude has a different level of toughness that I haven't seen. And I mentioned Terrence Cawthon earlier. I had a conversation. We call him Heat. I had a conversation with him for the first time in years not too long ago, and Boots came up. And he said, Jewel, or they call me Pretty Boy. That's an old name. But he's like, pretty Boy, I'm telling you, when I was a pro at Bosey's gym sparring Pooh, who's Boots' older brother, Boots was in the gym in his stroller. And he's been there since then through Pooh's career, through the second oldest brother Farad's career. The dad. Boxing is in Boots' blood, man. And I can tell you, as somebody that's been to their gym several times, if he ain't in the gym working out himself, he's still in the gym working with other fighters and coaches. Like, Boots is a boxing fanatic. The kid ain't scared of nothing. There's nothing in a boxing ring he can't do. And there's nobody in the boxing ring that man is scared of. I can't let you speak no blasphemous like that. Like,
No, not. I wouldn't say scared. I just said, well, I guess he didn't want to mention his name. I mean, I guess he didn't want to say King
well.
Virgil.
In fairness to him, you didn't hear Boots mentioning anybody's name till recently. He wasn't really talking. As a young fighter, it was Cameron Duncan or his dad.
I think my man Crown froze up. He must got that cricket service. Let me see. But I don't know, man. My man Crown got a powerful story, man. I'll tell you guys this. You there, Crown? Oh, okay. Let's see. I think you there. Can you hear us?
This last for a little minute too.
We missed everything you were saying, man. Can you hear me?
Can y'all hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I don't think somebody called him. His audio ain't catch up yet.
Oh, yeah. I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, that happens to me when I'm in the car. If somebody calls, it takes a minute for the audio to catch up.
Yeah. But let me see. Exit out of here. Yeah, now we can hear you, but you keep going out. There we go.
D free, BVO.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Oh, he can't hear us.
You might have to go to your settings, set it to your phone, and then set it back to your car.
Okay.
My bad.
Why?
Can y'all
Why?
hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, let me see this. 1 second. Okay, here we go.
You can hear me.
We can hear you. Oh, did it catch back up?
Yo,
I can hear you.
Sometimes when you in the car, it just be like that.
Yeah, he went out. We'll see if he come back in. But I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you, brothers, this, man. From when you guys hear a story like that, and Bruce, I'll ask you this first. Does it ever disappoint you when you hear about so many fighters that we didn't get to see? What you think, man?
No, bro. All the the stories he's talking about Jersey. That's the era that I lived. And I even wanted to ask him to go back a little further when he was probably 16 years old with the Triple Threat Gym. When you had Ray Mercer boxing there, because I mean Jersey's such a rich state, and the 90s, the 2000s, when you had the Olympians training there. You
Charles the
talk about
Natural Murray.
Charles the Natural Murray. Oh yeah, man, sweet
Ray
Charles the
Mercer
Natural.
came and trained in my gym late in his career too.
What was that?
943.
What did you say, Crown? We didn't hear you.
Yeah.
I said Ray Mercer came and trained in my gym at the end of his career too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Merciless
he was a
Ray.
stablemate of mine at the time too. But Charles the Natural Murray, to me, I just seen Al Cole recently too. But Charles the Natural Murray, to me, is one of the most gifted fighters. He had the right name I've ever seen. I think they made a big mistake with putting him in there with Terrence Ali too soon.
Mm-hmm.
But had they moved him correctly, he would have had one of the most storied careers in the history of the 140-pound division. That's just my humble opinion.
So speaking about fighters, while we got you back up, it's a couple of guys that I gotta admit I'm just super excited about. You got the Vargas brothers, but only one of them seems like to be anything worth watching, which is Emiliano. When you see Emiliano, do you see his father's talent?
I don't think any of them are quite as good as their father. They may be a little slicker than him, a little more athletic. But what made Fernando Vargas special was he was a dog, man. He had a big heart, and if all else fails, he would just fight you. I can't say it either way because I haven't seen them in there with the type of fighter that could test them yet. I haven't seen them really face any adversity. So to me, I'm kind of apprehensive to heap praise or to really evaluate fighters until I see them in a tough situation, and none of them have really been in one yet.
Yeah, and I said, and it's another guy, Abdullah Mason, from Cleveland, which is the capital of
I
boxing.
was just at his last fight in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah.
I love that kid. I love
Mm-hmm.
that kid. That kid can box his ass off. He's a dog, like I just talked about Fernando Vargas. I do believe he has that pedigree. But I think, some people need to slow down a little bit. He's a great prospect.
Yeah.
But again, he hasn't faced any adversity. He hasn't been in there with anybody who can compete. Although I will say Keyshawn Davis made a statement saying his last fighter was brought up from featherweight. That's a lie. His last fighter, LeBron, his opponent, I know him. LeBron was a lightweight, but has been fighting at 140 for like 2 years. So that was not a little guy he was fighting.
Well,
So
speaking
I
of
love
that,
Abdullah Mason.
speaking about Abdullah Mason, I think the only thing that really get him is that he's a mute. And I don't know if you heard about his
He
little
talks
brother,
when
his
he's
little baby
prompted.
brother.
I think it can work for him. I think it can work because the guys that have to be really outgoing are the guys that don't have the flashy or the flair styles. When you're a killer and you go in there and get knockouts, you don't have to say a whole lot. If you look at early in Tyson's career, he didn't talk. That came later.
Yeah.
The people who have to talk would be like a Shakur. He's got to be more fan friendly and more engaging and more charismatic because you'd have to sell him as a personality. You're not going to sell him as a killer. But Abdullah Mason's a killer. He don't have to talk.
And you brought up my next person, and you being from Jersey, what do you guys think about having probably one of the most unentertaining fighters that boxing's ever seen in Shakur Stevens? What do you think about that?
I think you should watch your mouth.
Yeah, that's cap. That's just complete cap.
Listen. As a boxing fan, I like
Yeah.
knockouts just as much as the next person.
Uh-huh.
As a former fighter, a current trainer, I've promoted fights. I've managed fighters. I think I've been around all kind of talent. You can't discount Shakur Stevenson is a uberly talented young fighter. The problem is with Shakur right now. The only problem he's running into, because we've had guys that aren't knockout artists become great success, like Pernell Whitaker, who you mentioned
Or
earlier.
Bernard Hopkins. Yeah.
Bernard Hopkins got a little more. He was a little more aggressive, got more knockouts, with the exception of late in his career than Shakur. I wouldn't put him there because early on Bernard was knocking everybody out. But the difference is Shakur's problem right now, and I say this about all the young fighters, just about.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's missing with the young fighters is media training. They need to learn what to say and when to say it. Shakur's biggest problem is he talks like a killer, but he fights like a boxer. And when you go on and you talk about how you're going to F people up, you're going to stop guys, it paints a perception of you that the fan is looking for when you get in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And when that doesn't come to fruition, they judge you harshly because of it. Now, if he talked a little different, like, I'm just going to outclass these guys, I'm going to outbox these guys, I'm going to box their ears off, then the fan knows what to anticipate. And they don't go to a boxing match looking for a backyard brawl. So I think he'd be a lot more fan-friendly. I think he'd be a lot more marketable as if
Mm-hmm.
he just embraced who he is and talked the way he fight. But the fact is, unfortunately, everybody out there now talks like an absolute killer, but
Mm-hmm.
only guys like Tank Davis and Abdullah Mason actually fight that way, which is not a knock. Everybody's not going to be a knockout artist. Everybody's not going to be a banger. Like I said, Pernell Whitaker is one of my favorite fighters ever. Virgil Hill, my stablemate, was not a knockout puncher, very successful, 5-time world champion, Hall of Famer, Olympic silver medalist. He wasn't a knockout puncher, but he embraced who he was. He gave
And
you
speaking
intellectual
about that,
conversation, and he talked like a intellectual, and he fought like one. But when you talk like a gangster and you fight like an intellectual, you confuse the public, and it's hard for them to embrace you.
well, you've been about boxing a long time. I'm just wondering, have you ever seen like fans leaving the match like that or falling asleep in the stands? I mean,
Absolutely, I have. Absolutely, I have. And I will say, although I am from Jersey and he's our best fighter right now, I love him to death. Shout out to Khalil Cole too. He's on the rise.
mm-hmm.
The problem with Shakur in that fight is that I think he had an opportunity to go for the stoppage, but he wasn't willing to go through the fire and actually take that next step to go get it. Because he had his opponent. Yeah, what is it, Artrum? He
Yeah,
had
Art.
him. He had Artem. He had him on the doorstep of being stopped. He just had to, you know, put a sustained attack together for a good 30 or 40 seconds more. I think it was like in the 6th round, and he probably would have got that stoppage. But he has a safety first style, and he wasn't willing to do that. And really, that's the difference between a guy like him and Floyd. Because although Floyd was a defensive fighter, when he smelled blood in the water, that was your ass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Shakur should just take the constructive criticism a little better. People are only critiquing you highly is because they expect a lot out of you, and they know you're an immensely talented fighter. And like I said, he talks in a way that he doesn't perform, unfortunately. But I'm not going to sit here and say he's not talented. I'm not going to say he's the most boring, because it's very,
No,
very
I
difficult.
wouldn't say I wouldn't use a word harsh like boring. I would say, um, I would say that he's probably the most unentertaining fighter I've ever seen.
Well,
And
in that case, then you should penalize his opponents for not knowing how to cut off the ring, not
what
knowing how to force him to fight. Because let me tell you
what
something.
yeah,
The
I
great
get what
ones.
you're saying on that. I'm just more
What
or
do you
less
think would
saying
happen if Roberto Duran was in there with a fighter that fought like Shakur?
he would cut the ring off.
He would make him fight.
Yeah, he'd make him
So
fight like
it,
Miguel Cotto did Floyd.
exactly. So
Yeah.
if you don't like the style of fighting, fine. He's fighting world class fighters. Tell somebody to go out there. Don't care about the jabs he's poking him with. Don't care about the pot shots. Walk him down and make him fight. Nobody's done that. So, unfortunately, even though his style is more of a defensive style, I think you got to fault his opponents for not being able to make him fight.
Yeah. I mean, but that's Crown being Crown. I know
but if he
that's
fights
you being you,
Zepeda,
Crown. That's what you always do. You always blame the other guy, not the guy
no,
who's the star.
because I will say this: Zepeda's going to make him fight if he fights Zepeda.
Yeah, but I'll say this.
We'll all get to see who Shakur is if that Zepeda fight happens.
But the thing that Shakur does, and I didn't even think about it, so I watched it. But he takes himself so far out of range, like Roy was saying, that it's going to be hard to make him fight because if I mean, he almost is close to turning his back a little bit, and he'll really run, like he'll run. Like, he won't.
What a guy like Zepeda is not going to work because he's just going to come like Floyd Mayweather and Jose Luis Castillo. He's going to recklessly come to the point where you're going to end up on the ropes if you don't at least stand your ground at some point and throw shots.
Zepeda sell out to get in there, basically.
And that's what nobody else is doing. So, like the De Los Santos fight, right?
Right.
I was upset as anybody else at that fight, right? But what nobody's saying is Zepeda wasn't willing to go through the fire to try to press the fight either. He was kind of happy Shakur was on the back foot. He was on his back foot too. Like, what was stopping him if he feels Shakur has nothing to be worried about? What was stopping him from just walking to him and saying, we're going to fight? Yes, you're going to crack me with a jab or a left hand in there coming in, but you're going to have to do that because I'm coming to take what's yours. And the fighters aren't doing that. So if they're not doing that, that's just like, I'm going to go to a different sport, right? You're a Cleveland Browns fan. When Cleveland had Ickey Woods, right? They ran the ball. Or were you old enough to remember that? Let me say that first.
No, he wasn't.
Oh, and my high school gym teacher, Dino Hall, was also a running back for the Cleveland Browns. But
no, I wasn't born back then.
Okay, well, I'll just say period. When an NFL team has a hell of a running back, right? They're going to slow the game down and run that running back 20, 30 times a game and eat up the clock, and it's going to be a low-scoring game, and they're going to beat you. And none of the fans are going to say, well, that wasn't entertaining to watch. They should have threw the
Nick
ball.
Chubb was entertaining.
Hold on, let me finish. They should have threw the ball and gave the other team a chance to intercept it. They should have opened their offense up and took more chances at making mistakes to give the other team a chance to win. That's not how this goes. If I'm playing it safe, riding my asset, and it's winning, it's up to you to stop that and make me do something else. Now, Shakur's opponents need to take his legs, his defense away from him, and force him to fight. If they can't, that's not a knock on him. That's a knock on them. He's not fighting amateurs. He's fighting world-class fighters.
Well, we got a game we like to play over here at BVO Boxing. It's called Rapid Fire. I'm going to give you two names. You tell me who you got. So,
okay.
The first one is Joe Louis Muhammad. Roberto Duran.
Do you want me to expound on why or just answer?
You said Muhammad. Hold on. I didn't. You said Muhammad over Joe Louis?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God. Go ahead. Tell me how.
Well, he's way bigger than Joe Louis. He was quicker than Joe Louis, more athletic than Joe Louis, and Joe Louis would have had the feet to actually cut the ring off. He would have ran Joe Louis in the shots and turned him all day long.
Jersey Joe didn't do that, and Jersey Joe was equivalent to Muhammad.
Jersey Joe could. I fought Jersey Joe Walcott's grandsons. Okay.
Yeah.
I love him. Mm-hmm. He couldn't hold a candle to Muhammad Ali. Like, what are we talking about?
Hold on. You see a lot of Jersey Joe in Muhammad when you see him fight.
You see a lot of Ray Robinson in Muhammad, which was who he idolized. And how dare you disrespect Muhammad Ali? Muhammad Ali put millions of dollars in sports, not just boxing.
Yeah. So our next one, man. Since you doing that, Roberto Duran, Floyd Mayweather at lightweight.
This is gonna break my heart. It's gonna break my heart because I used to say, I grew up saying Roberto Duran was the greatest lightweight of all times. And he might be, right? But Roberto Duran was frustrating into quitting against Sugar Ray Leonard. Floyd Mayweather is far more slippery than Roberto Duran. I think he would have than Ray Leonard. If he couldn't deal with how slippery Ray Leonard was, Floyd Mayweather would have frustrated that man defensively into saying the hell with this. It's almost a 50-50 fight, but I think Floyd's mental toughness, great defense, and lack of care for what the public's going to say would stick to his game plan and win a decision against Duran.
And going back to that, when you said, which I was totally shocked, you said Muhammad over Joe Louis, which is laughable. Who would you say Lennox Lewis versus Ali? Who wins that one?
Ali.
So tell me how he would beat Lennox Lewis.
Way quicker, way more athletic, way better reflexes, better boxing skill, better fight IQ. Lennox Lewis caught everybody at the right time. And let's not forget, Lennox Lewis is probably the only dominant heavyweight champion of the world that we've seen knocked out twice by lesser opponents. He got knocked out by Hasim Rahman and Oliver McCall. And couldn't.
Then he turned around and made McCall cry, didn't he?
He made him cry like a newborn.
Well, I was getting ready to address that.
Go ahead.
He couldn't even knock McCall out while McCall had his hands at his waist, having a nervous breakdown, crying in the ring because they signed him out of drug rehab to take that fight. So
see, you could have bringing them stories that nobody knew, man. So okay, I'm gonna ask you this. So greatest promoter, we're gonna go to our last two. So greatest promoter, Don King, Bob Arum.
Don King or who?
Don King or Bob Arum? Who's the better promoter?
Don King, hands down.
Don King, Al Haymon.
They both promoted the same fighters. In Muhammad Ali, the much bigger fights and the much higher grossing fights were promoted by Don King. It's not even close. Also, these mega cards you're talking about now that Turkey Al-Sheikh is putting on have nothing on the 6-7 title fight cards Don King was putting on in the 90s.
Hey, Bruce, you know a little bit about Don King. Would you agree with that?
About which question? About Don King being a better promoter than Bob Arum?
Yes.
Promoting's a dirty game, and nobody could get more down and dirty than Don King back in the day, man. There was no cell phones to catch what he was doing. Phones weren't tapped, and Don was a master at that. So yeah, man, Don King brought some great fights, and like the brother Jewel just said, man, Turkey's not doing anything that we haven't already seen, but he's doing it. He's doing it where the new generation of boxing, they've seen nothing like this before. And it's refreshing. I think Turkey is doing a beautiful, beautiful thing out there. I don't even think money's the driving force behind him. I really think he wants to better the sport. I think he wants to he put promotions together where took years we couldn't get these fights made. He's making them on a monthly basis. So they're cracking on him now because they said he didn't make money. He blew it with the Bud fight. Man, if you call that blowing it, he's learning. He's learning promotion. It was long. The Eminem concert, the fireworks, they were unnecessary. But he snapped right back out of that. That's nothing, man. One little clink in the radar, he's going to move on. He was talking with Oscar about putting the Bud Crawford and Ortiz fight on with the undercard of Zapata and Stevenson. I mean, shit.
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
I want to respond to that. I like what he's trying to do, right? But I've been paying attention to boxing for a long time. We've had guys on a smaller scale try to do what he does. I think what's going to happen and what's happening, he hasn't turned a profit on a single one of his cards yet. And what we got to remember is he's not the king of Saudi Arabia. He's an employee of the king of Saudi Arabia. So it's not his money he's playing with. And you hear the way he's talking now. He's talking about pulling back on those purses. If you look at the purses from the last card, he's not guaranteeing these guys a whole lot of money no more. He's basically trying to do what Al Haymon does, is put fights on pay-per-view and get guys their money on the back end because he's losing money hand over fist. Like you said, boxing is a game of crooks. I think when it comes to boxing, he's a little foolish. Not, through no disrespect to him, he's just inexperienced. And the thing we know in life, especially in boxing, a fool and his money shall soon part. And I think what's happening is guys like Bob Arum and Oscar De La Hoya are getting him to spend all this money and take all the risk. And eventually the king of Saudi Arabia is going to get tired of that. And they're going to be out of boxing the same way they're out of golf. And I just predict, while he has a lot of fire right now because he came in just throwing the same way Eddie Hearn messed up in the beginning, just throwing money at a problem, eventually he's going to run out of money. And I think by 2026, he won't be in boxing anymore.
But Bob Arum told us
I tried to
he
tell
could
him,
build.
Carl. They ain't want to listen to me. I tried to tell him that.
Hey, but Bob said it early on. I could build a house from scratch in Beverly Hills with all the money I lost on Bud Crawford. So.
And then what happens? This fool comes in and takes the losses for him. And like I said, let's remember, they're calling him His Excellency. Some people are, messing up and calling him king. He's not the king of Saudi Arabia. He's the head of entertainment, which means he's an employee of the kingdom. It's not his money. And eventually they're going to get tired of him losing their money.
I don't know about that, man. I think they dig the celebrityism the country's getting with boxing. I think they're trying to break out of the country being the rights against the human rights violations.
I hear what you're saying, right? Before you get too far into that, I'll debunk the first thing you said. If they just wanted the celebrity of it, they would still be bringing fighters to their country and hosting the events. They just had an event in America, and they're getting ready to have an event in London. Why? Because they're trying to take fighters to their home country so they can finally make a profit.
Oh, wow.
And
that makes sense.
The one in America still didn't make a profit. So it sounds good to say these people got oil money, they don't care. If that was the case, when Canelo told him I wanted 100 or 150 million, he wouldn't say Canelo's asking for something that he know he can't provide. If you got unlimited money, you can provide whatever you want.
Yeah, but see, he can't be. He wants to be realistic too, bro. I hear what you're saying, but I think he's the head of the entertainment committee in Saudi, and he has unlimited funds. And
well,
I mean,
look what he paid Joshua and Wilder and all those guys in that first fight. Then look at the purses from these fights. They've drastically dropped.
No, look at the fighters that he had in Saudi for that big event. He had every fighter. I mean, that cost him millions of dollars just to bring those fighters there, just to give these guys a sense of dignity.
Further proving my point. He's losing money hand over fist.
Yeah, dude, I don't think money's the bottom line with him. I really don't, man.
Then if that's the case, he wouldn't tell he wouldn't tell Canelo he's asking for too much. He wouldn't have told Tank he's asking for too much. And Tank told him straight out, the money that you're offering there, I make in America.
I didn't say money didn't matter. I just said money's not the bottom line. I think he's going to spend money, and if he keeps on an even scale, I don't think he's going to lose billions. I don't think he's going to put the country in bankruptcy. I think they'll let that go on because boxing needs that, and a country like that, he's just getting his feet wet. He's learning promotions. He's learning how to run successful promotions. And it's a worldwide sport, bro. England,
you're right, and it's a worldwide sport, but you were also right that boxing promoters are slick and it's a slippery game. What I think is happening, and I hope I'm wrong, but what I think is happening is Bob Arum and Oscar De La Hoya are taking him for a ride. And let's not forget, he's used Al Haymon fighters on all of his promotions. He has to pay all of them to do that. Unfortunately, I think the promoters are reaping all the benefits. He's taking all the expense, and eventually the well's going to run dry. I just think we've seen it before. We've seen Eddie Hearn come to America and throw around money.
Billions. The zone lost billions.
And what happened? They went to other companies and were ready to cut ties with him all together.
But all these companies, they keep the other companies on their toes. Do you remember a guy named Harold Rothschild Smith?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, this guy had a big presentation in Madison Square Garden. It was going to be Jerry Cooney, Ken Norton. The undercard was Alexis Aguayo, Sean O'Grady, Saad
Okay.
Mohammed, and Eddie Mustafa. Anyway, the
Hold
dude
on.
was in.
I
The
have to
dude was
stop
in
you right
Disney.
there really quick because the
Oh man,
boxing memory
you
failed me
always
again.
stop me before I get through with
I
my story,
trained with
bro.
Saad Muhammad. I trained with Saad Muhammad from starting in 1986. Saad Muhammad was a great guy. Right before he got really sick, they were going to do a movie on his life, and he promised me he was going to put me in a gang scene in his movie. Saad Muhammad was royalty. I have to say that. That was my
Oh,
guy, Saad
I
Muhammad.
love Saad Mohammed too, bro. In fact, we just had an anniversary of his passing, I believe,
Yeah,
not long ago. And I watched his wars, every fucking war, the fucking Yaki Lopez wars. Oh
twice.
man,
Yeah,
twice the
Marvin Johnson.
John
Yeah,
Thompson fight twice. The Marvin, bro. Saad Mohammed is my idol. Born the same year I'm born, 1954, man. Born, the miracle man. But anyway, he was going to be part of that card. But what I'm saying is, this guy Harold Rothschild Smith, he was caught. He was putting on these huge cards. He did it. Muhammad Ali Productions was with him. This was around the time when Hearns won his title, the early '80s. He
okay.
was found embezzling hundreds of millions of dollars from Wells Fargo, and hoot, the guy's in jail. All his promotion shut down. But the other promoters pick up that slack. This is just part of boxing. But we fans, we benefit from this shit. I don't care what
We
goes on
we
backstage.
do, but it's not sustainable. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm this happy with what he's
But
doing.
it's been
I'm just saying
sustainable.
it's
I've
not
been watching it
sustainable.
since 1969. It's been sustainable. It regenerates itself.
What promoter that had that model of just throwing money at the fight game was able to sustain it? I seen MC Hammer leave the music industry and try to do it. It didn't work. I seen America Presents give Dave Reed like $5 million coming out of the Olympics. They're
I
spending
seen
money
it
for
happen
everybody. It
in
didn't work.
1997. My Cleveland
And you're
Indians
going,
lost to
and
the
you're going to
doggone
see it happen
Marlins,
again,
and they bought
bro.
a World
Yeah,
Series.
but I'm not saying boxing's going anywhere because I'll be the first to tell you it's
Yeah.
not. But what I'm saying is Turkey won't be around for long because what he's doing is not sustainable.
But it doesn't matter. See, chaos creates opportunity. Chaos creates great fights. It brings other promoters out. Let this backroom shit go on. We're gonna benefit because we're gonna see. All I care about is the fights. That's all I care about. And
I
Turkey,
agree with both of y'all. I just care about the fights, and I agree with Brother Crown saying too. Like
Speak,
I don't think he's gonna be able to sustain that. But
but
on
that's not.
with OG Bruce is saying, I don't care about none of that. I just want to see the fights, bro. I don't care where they
Well,
at.
here's the
but
problem.
hold on, let me say this real quick, Crown. Speaking on that, man, salute to my brother GP on sending that file of cash app. And I want to say this because we got to get ready for the Rise podcast, man. Hey, Crown, I could probably do a 3-part thing with you, man. Hearing you talk
I
about your
appreciate
father,
you. I
man.
really enjoyed this. I
Hey,
appreciate you.
hear you talking about your father, man, how you came up. I mean, it's
Oh,
amazing because when I read about you, man, it's funny knowing you as a homeboy, but to read about you, they talk about this kid with this crazy IQ that never got his opportunity, man. I'll just say this, bro. Hey, it might have not worked how you wanted it, but man, you know what? God got a good plan. And I know you talk about your son. Hopefully let him fight Mexican style and not do your one of the dance. Let him bang like a real champion. But you know what, man? Salute to you, man. Training cats, and I'm telling you, man, the way you treating those kids, man, as if they're your own. Bill, we can't say enough about you. Hey, and I thank you for pushing the sport of boxing forward. And keep your eyes on Teal, man. Keep your eyes on Teal, man. He gonna
I
stop Tank.
appreciate you. And before I go, can I plug
Go ahead.
my guys?
Absolutely, go ahead.
I have Anthony Young,
Uh huh.
24-3 welterweight. We're trying to get him back going. His last fight was against Alexis Rocha.
Yeah.
And I have the son of former heavyweight champion of the world, Bruce Seldon. I have Bruce Seldon Jr. He's 2-0 in the last 40 days. He's had 2 professional fights. We were on the Zone on July 26th. Y'all want to see him fight? You can check us out. It's still on the Zone program where he fought on the Zone July 26th, and he's going to be fighting in his 3rd professional fight September 7th up in Newark. So look out for my guys. Again, like you said, boxing didn't go. My personal career didn't go the way I wanted it to, but boxing owes me nothing. I've met some of the greatest people in the world. The gentleman that probably has a few years on me that was just talking reminded me, like, I've been around absolute boxing royalty. At one time in my gym, I can tell you, in the same day, I trained with Virgil Hill, Matthew Saad Muhammad, Dwight Muhammad Kawi, and Richie Cates. All light heavyweight royalty were all in my gym at the same time. I've met the greatest people in the world: Floyd Mayweather, Marvin, you name it. Muhammad Ali. Boxing owes me nothing. I have no regrets. And I'm here tonight talking to you. You know what I mean? Which I don't take for granted either. A guy from Cleveland, Ohio, that wants to hear what a guy from Little Pleasantville, New Jersey, had to say. So thanks to you guys for hearing me out. I really appreciate you. Um, you had me a little choked up earlier, talking about my father. But I'm glad you did, though, because I don't ever want to forget, the man I am today, the things I've been able to do, the experiences I had in boxing, all because of, the work of my father. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you sincerely.
Hey, the reason we started this interview series, man, is I read this book. Shout out to my man Tony Robbins. But you never know when it's the last time you're gonna do it. And what we want to do, man, we want to really at BVO Boxing, man, we want to talk about not only the great boxers, but the great people that surround it, because boxing can't be what it is without the great people around it. I was reading this article, and I'll go on forever if I keep talking, but I read about how Don King had a manager stuck in his office for a month. I don't know if this is true, but basically Don King made the man stay in his office. He put him in timeout for a month and made him teach him the boxing game. So this is a beautiful game.
That wasn't you got the story a little wrong. I can tell you the story if you want to hear it real quick.
Go ahead.
It wasn't a manager. It was a promoter. His
Oh,
name was
okay.
Don. His name was Don Elbaum. It wasn't a month. It was a weekend, and he paid him, according to Don, he paid him $10,000 cash. As soon as he walked in the door, he said, "Listen, this $10,000 is yours, but you can't leave, and we're not leaving here until you tell me how I can be a promoter." The story was told when Don Elbaum inducted Don King into the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame 3 years ago. That's how I know it. And also I have stablemates in Levander Johnson, Virgil Hill, Bruce Seldon, who all fought under Don King. So yeah, that was a story. It was Don Elbaum. Look him up. He gave Don King his starting promotions, and Don locked him in from what I understand, in a office in Ohio, in his own office. Came to visit him in
Yeah.
his own office. Locked him in there for the weekend, gave him 10 grand cash, and told him he couldn't leave until he knew how to be a promoter. And he
You said
said,
that
in,
right, because
in
that was in
Don's words,
Orwell.
yeah, in Don Elbaum's words, he said when Don King did that, he knew he'd be the greatest promoter in the history of boxing.
One
And
last question for you, Crown Jewel. Being from New Jersey, hey brother, being from New Jersey,
Yes,
you know
sir.
my brother Leon Muhammad.
Leon Muhammad is a great dude. I actually talked to him last in person. We were both at Shakur's last fight. I didn't get to talk to him, but I talked to him the night that Gary Russell lost in Atlantic City. We sat together and talked that night. I do know Leon Muhammad. I didn't realize Leon remembered me from when I was a kid. So when
I
we
don't
were
know.
talking, I'm explaining to him who I am, and he basically told me, "Shut up, I know who you are."
I talk to Leon every week, man. What a great guy. Now that's a crown jewel right there too.
Hello?
Yeah, no, you
we
went
still.
out. Yeah, no,
Hello?
just a quick memory of brother Leon.
Call came in and messed me up. Go out and come back in. Hello?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I can still hear you too, Crown.
Not working at all now. Y'all hear me?
Loud and clear, brother.
Hello? Hello?
We got a mic check on you, Crown.
I don't think they can hear me.
We can hear you.
BVO.
I don't know why he can't hear us, but we can hear him. But
Can y'all hear me?
yeah.
I'm sorry, I got a phone call, but I don't know how much you heard of that, but yeah, I got to talk to Leon Muhammad the night Gary Russell lost, and yeah, he let me know that he remembered me from when I was a kid. You know, I was trying to explain to him who I was, and he knew. But yeah, great guy. I'll even quote his quote: "Most people don't know a left hook from a fish hook."
That's Leon right there, bro. And he remembers every date, every fighter, every location.
I'm
Guy's
sorry,
got
I had to stop at Chick-fil-A with my son and nephew, and they don't want to accept the fact that it's closed.
Oh.
Let's go, man. It's closed.
Huh?
It's closed.
No, I didn't know. Okay.
But yeah, Leon Muhammad, great dude, man.
Oh yeah, great dude for sure, for sure.
I
He's
remember when he was in Butch Lewis's camp, and Butch Lewis's camp would come to my gym for months at a time when they had a fight coming up. First when Michael Spinks was still fighting, and then when Michael Spinks got into managing, and he had the Finger Twins and Maurice Blocker and Glenn the Promise Thomas. Leon Muhammad would come with all those guys along with Butch Lewis to my gym for weeks and weeks at a time.
Hey, and I gotta say, yeah, I appreciate you, Crown, man. I can't say enough about you, man. You're a great brother. And thank you again to our special guest, man, brother Bruce, man. Salute to my man, the Puerto Rican Prince, D Free. Salute to my guy, the biggest hater himself, aka T'Challa. Salute to my man, Crown prize fighter. And salute to my man, the angriest man on YouTube, my man, Crush the Legend. And we gone. Get ready for the Rise podcast, Mr.
All
JBT
right, man. Y'all have a good one. And BVO, I got to get you over on my channel one of these days.
Oh yeah, you know the Asiatic Black Man. I travel, man. You know you don't never call me, but I travel, man.
Yeah,
And one of
definitely.
these,
Let's do it. And
I just sub to his brother.
Your reach, your experience in the game goes back, I can tell, a lot further than mine. I'd love to have a conversation with you on my channel as well.
I look forward to it, brother. I just sub to your channel. We'll stay in touch for sure.
yeah. All right, we
Peace.
going, y'all. Peace.
All right, man. Peace.